What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I took a little bit of a break, but I think I'm ready to come back to making videos. And this is a topic that kind of unfolded a lot while I was taking this little break or whatever away from YouTube, and it's still something that I want to talk about because I think it's important. I think this is an insane situation, and it's hard to even draw a parallel to it, especially here in the United States at least, because I just haven't really seen many situations like this. I think the best one to compare it to, if you're a member of the sports world, is maybe someone like Enes Kanter out of the NBA, who was outspoken about the Turkish government and has basically faced persecution from them for comments that he made, and it basically also put his family who lived in Turkey in danger as well. But this is actually regarding a Russian and somebody from the NHL. I don't know how many of you actually watch hockey. I watch it very seldomly. I'm a Columbus Blue Jackets fan. That's the hometown team, of course. And that's the team that I started watching hockey with and everything. So this is actually a player who's played for that team, which is why I'm even really familiar with him in the first place. He now plays for the New York Rangers. He goes by the name of Artemi Panarin, who is actually a Russian-born hockey player who grew up in extreme poverty in Russia to become one of the star players in the NHL over time. I want to go ahead and give a little bit of a backstory on Artemi real quick. Artemi grew up in such poverty in Russia that his first pair of skates that he got at the age of 5, according to what I've read, were actually salvaged from a dumpster at a skating facility and were so big on him that he had to wear another pair of shoes inside of the skates and tie it all together with rope to keep it fit. When he got hand-me-down new gloves, quote-unquote, to play hockey with, the leather was in such bad condition that another piece of leather had to be sewn into it in order for it to even function. He was relentlessly mocked and laughed at by the other kids that he played hockey with and people from his community because of the condition that he grew up in. He was never seen as any sort of, I guess, prodigy of hockey, anything crazy like that. He wasn't high up on any recruiting lists until he went to a boarding school with a connection to the Russian hockey leagues over there, and he spent, I think, a year there. He was actually fitted for equipment. He got to play with real equipment, and that's when he started to flourish as a hockey player and become recognized. He then, over time, made his steps into the NHL over here in North America and became a star player, man. He became a really sought-after free agent after his time with the Columbus Blue Jackets, where he performed extremely well. He actually set franchise records in Columbus and then has now gone on to the New York Rangers and is still a star player of the league. But he's facing some very severe and insane allegations coming out of Russia, and to go through these as, I guess, objectively as we can here, from what I've been reading, a former coach of Artemi has come out years after this alleged incident even occurred, saying that he basically brutally assaulted and beat an 18-year-old woman inside of a bar in Russia. It allegedly happened during the 2011 and 2012 season. And the coach was quoted as saying that Panarin, quote, sent the 18-year-old citizen of Latvia to the floor with several powerful blows. Now, when you hear something like that, man, like, your mind starts to run a little bit, right? Like, man, how could somebody do something like that? That's just foul and cruel and unnecessary. But let's get one thing clear here. The odds that this happened are extremely low, if non-existent. This is a non-story that has been fabricated in order to make him look bad. For instance, this coach alleges that he basically saw this or whatever, or has knowledge of the situation. But at the same time, 4 of Panarin's previous teammates have come out and said that while playing with him, they have never heard of his involvement in any sort of physical altercation, including the one that's been alleged. Meaning that this coach is now standing basically a 5v1 when it comes to talking about this, because teammates are now supporting him, saying, hey, this didn't happen, or at least we didn't know about it. Which is quite interesting because it's been, what now, like 10 years since this allegedly happened, and this coach has decided to never say anything until now, right? You're going to step up and do the right thing and expose this person for beating a woman viciously, right? But you wanted to wait 10 years before you said anything, and you didn't go to the authorities, right? He didn't go to the police to have him arrested for viciously beating another person, right? You don't do that. You wait 10 years later, and then you come out to the media about it to create a hit piece. And then on top of that, several other people are now corroborating that they've never heard this story before, so that means, at least if they're telling the truth, that you've never told anyone else about this, no one on the team. There was no discussions, like you didn't try to do the right thing ever at any point before now. So everything about this story is indicating that this is a fabricated hit piece meant to destroy the reputation and career of Artemi Panarin, okay? So now you might be wondering, well, Optimus, why would they write something like this? I mean, Panarin has become an example of an incredible Russian athlete on the ice. He's made a name for himself. He's an example of a Russian success story, right? Why would his country turn their backs on him like this? Why would they do something like this? Why would they suddenly, come out with this kind of hit piece that's now circulated the national media over there, painting him in a negative light? Well, the answer, I think, and many other people think, is extremely simple. So, if you've paid attention to any world news in the last few years, you'll know that Russia has been struggling with a culture that's been built up by the government and pro-Putin supporters, where basically speaking critically of the government, opposing the government in elections, doing things like that, right? Basically, if you oppose the government, you're subject to being harassed by the government. The government may even outright try to assassinate you or silence you. They'll do essentially whatever it takes to make sure that you're not being critical of them. And it's been something that's been a major problem basically since Putin has been in charge, which has now been decades and will expand even further into the future. Now, a good example to bring up here would be Alexei Navalny, who is somebody who has grown into an international figure of freedom of speech and government opposition because of his outspoken political beliefs. Now, Alexei Navalny has been someone who has opposed the Putin regime that has basically unfolded in Russia. He's been very vocal about certain things going on in the country, and he's been very vocal and critical of the government. Now, Alexei Navalny was nearly assassinated by the Russian government. As a matter of fact, they attempted to poison him with a nerve agent in August of 2020. He was hospitalized in serious condition. He did make a recovery. But then in January of 2021, he returned to Russia and was immediately arrested and detained and is still being held, honestly, unfairly. He's being held as a basic political captive, in my opinion, and it's wrong and people should speak out against it. He will spend 2.5 years in what's called a corrective labor colony, so you know what that means, basically. Now, Alexei Navalny was actually fundamental in Artemi Panarin actually speaking out critically against the Russian government. He said that after listening to Alexei and his arguments, that he became more aware of what was going on and felt more encouraged to speak out against it. Artemi was actually at one point quoted as saying the following, so, quote, "How will they decide what's fake and what's not? It's obvious what's going to happen. They want to do whatever they want and never to be disrespected. Hey, I get disrespected on the internet when I lose. It's nothing terrible. The government doesn't always do what's right. This is why journalists and freedom of speech exist, I think, to show them the other side or to point out their mistakes. If there's no competition, there is no progress. I think that if I go and watch Channel 1 for 24 hours straight without tearing myself off the chair, I will go and say that the whole world is devils except for us. But that's impossible. There are normal people everywhere." So Artemi, especially after coming to the United States, has become very vocal against the government that he was raised by, or raised against, I guess I should say. And he even went on to speak about the differences between United States politics and Russian politics, saying basically that the president here in the United States has 2 4-year terms and then they're done. Which is true, that is the law here in the US. You get 2 terms max, you're pretty much done after that, right? Nobody has ever served more than 8 years as president, I don't think, in US history. I'm actually going to research that real quick. I actually was incorrect on that. Franklin D. Roosevelt was and remains the only president to serve 3 terms in United States history, after defeating Wendell Willkie in the 1940 U.S. presidential election. So there's a fun fact for this video if you didn't know. So, wait, he actually served 4 terms. I don't know, bro. But that's basically the closest thing we've ever seen to Putin, which has been, the man has been in control since December 31st of 1999. Keep in mind, that's before I was even born. I'm a grown man here in the United States who can legally vote, I can drive, I can own firearms, I can do all kinds of things. I'm considered a legal adult. And this man has controlled this country, basically, for longer than I've been alive. That's ridiculous. I mean, anyone, I think, should be able to agree with that. Nobody should have that much control for that period of time. And Putin and his government have set up several different legislations that have passed that have basically extended the amount of power that he has, extended the length of time that he can stay in office, and Russia has done nothing about this. There's a fostered political culture there in which you just don't speak out against the government. You don't say these things. You don't do these things because you don't want your family harassed. You don't want the government to come after you. You don't want that nerve agent in your fucking body, do you? Then shut up. Obviously, anyone with their head screwed on correctly can see that that's a massive violation of human rights. It's obvious suppression of freedom of speech, and nobody should have to suffer or endure that, right? So I think people like Artemi and Alexei are heroes. I don't think that Artemi did anything that has been accused against him, and most people thankfully don't. The amount of courage that it takes to speak out against a subject like that, especially when you have family that lives in Russia, like Artemi does, that's fucking guts. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely something that most people would be afraid to do. And I think that he should be viewed as a hero. Now, unfortunately, Artemi has been forced to step away from the New York Rangers as this has all unfolded. He's very clearly shaken by these allegations that he has vehemently denied. And thankfully, the New York Rangers came out with a statement of support for him. They did actually publicly defend him, which is good. This is a statement from the New York Rangers saying, Artemi vehemently and unequivocally denies any and all allegations in this fabricated story. This is clearly an intimidation tactic being used against him for being outspoken on recent political events. Artemi is obviously shaken and concerned and will take some time away from the team. The Rangers fully support Artemi and will work with him to identify the source of these unfounded allegations. So thankfully it seems that Artemi's job is not in any sort of risk and that his public reputation is not in any sort of risk. I think that this was very clearly an intimidation tactic used to suppress him. I mean, here in the West, right, domestic violence and like especially abuse of women, like physical violence and stuff against women is taken very seriously in our culture. Like, if you get accused of beating the shit out of a woman, dude, like, that's basically social suicide in a lot of places in the United States. That's like an allegation that you genuinely can't come back from a lot of the time. So it to me, is very clear that these people who are, I guess, behind this entire thing understood that that was a big part of Western culture, and they intentionally targeted that in specific in order to try and make people in the West mad to ruin this man's career. And all it's really done is unfolded the Streisand effect, I think. I think now more people now know of Artemi and know his story. I'm one of these people. I've learned more about Artemi from this than I knew even when he was a player on my favorite team, or the team I guess that I support. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm like, oh, I go to every Blue Jackets game, nothing like that, right? But this situation has brought his opinions against the Russian government to more people than ever because now it's being widely reported in the media. And it's given him sort of like a hero sing around, I guess, the entire league because now people support him even more than they did before. So, an absolutely insane subject, man. I can, but I also can't believe. Like, I just genuinely don't see why people could be so cruel to try and ruin this man's career, right? But I don't know. I also don't live in Russia. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. Thank you guys for being channel members. If you are, you guys have helped me huge with your support of the channel. And with that being said, thank you guys. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus Well, supporting Artemi and signing out. You've seen cool stuff in your life before, but you've never seen cool shit like this. Introducing Horser. Are we sure what it is? Not really, but is it interesting? Absolutely. Optimus, what do all these luxury cars and videos of horses and nature have to do with Horser? They're specially crafted in that order to make you want to buy shit. To make you think to yourself, oh, this Horser brand represents luxury and wealth and nature, and I need that. So fulfill the advertisement's role and go buy it. Horser. Keep it on you, or some shit like that.